Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to day 22. So today we're just going to go through a nice simple one. It's going to be mobility for squat. Okay, so we'll start the ball rolling with some ankle mobility and some ankle control work. Then we'll go through the same thing for hips, some hip mobility work, and finally we'll just go through some different squat control drills. Okay, I think in many people's cases the squat can be more of a control thing than maybe at first you might think. So often people think straight away it's my ankle mobility or it's my my hip mobility or whatnot. But I think if you start to get a bit more understanding for how the squat works, it becomes more of a balancing skill. Okay, and it's playing with the positions that you put your body into in order to maintain balance and maintain good alignment, good posture. Okay, so it'd be quite an interesting session today, guys, for you to play around and explore. We're just really deep diving in a little bit more into the squat and hopefully learn something in the process. First things first, guys, we'll crack on with them ankles. Before we do, all you need is some sort of chair or thing to put your foot on. Ideally like a kettlebell, not essential if you don't have it, you can just use your hand. Hopefully like some sort of band as well, okay, that's attached to something that's not gonna move. And then if you've got like some light plates or like a water bottle filled with water to sort of counterbalance you as well, that'd be perfect. Most of the stuff you can sort of just modify if you don't have that anyway. We'll go through that. So to begin with, we'll just go through that 5-inch rock. Okay, so we've done this before, but just want to go through it one more time. So the way we screen our ankles, okay, the thumb and first finger, the fist and the thumb goes to the wall. Okay, and we place that against the big toe. From there, we just sit upright and we just see if we can rock our knee to the wall. Now the door kind of comes away here, it's a sliding door, so I can almost get to the door. It's got a little bit better than probably last time, but it could still be a little bit better. So definitely something to work on, but you know, it's good enough to get into a deep squat. Okay, so just test that for about 5 reps, keeping the heel down, keeping a neutral spine, obviously testing both sides. So again, big toe, thumb, and a fist, and then keeping that heel down. Okay, and this side's good enough, just about keep the heel down. Right side can maybe do a little bit of work. As I said, it's not too bad, okay, but check that one out, guys. If you're really struggling to get that knee anywhere near the wall, then certainly ankles might be something to prioritize. Okay, how would we prioritize them? With some variations like this. So we'll start with our soleus stretch. So basically the soleus is the gastroc, which is kind of the typical calf muscle that you'll probably think of. It's a biarticular muscle, so it crosses both the ankle joint and the knee joint, so it crosses 2 joints, biarticular, whereas the soleus only crosses 1 joint, it only crosses the ankle. So when we're in a bent leg squat, it's going to be the soleus that's going to restrict our range of motion, not the gastroc, because as we bend the knee, we're going to take away that stretch in the gastroc. Okay, so it's going to be the soleus that's going to be on full stretch as we drop into a squat, okay, with a bent knee. So this is like a soleus stretch. Now, obviously feel free to get something lower that's a bit more comfortable, but I'm just going to show you it on here. So we want to keep that foot nice and stable. Think about a tripod foot. From here we're just trying to leverage ourselves in this and try and really pull ourselves into more dorsiflexion, okay, which is this range of motion here. Keeping the heel down, really getting that knee travel over the toe. We'll take 5 breaths here, 2 more breaths. Every exhale, try and push a little bit deeper. And then release. Okay, we'll come into that 2 more times. 5 breaths. One more time, I'll just briefly grab a kettlebell for the last one. So on a day that I'm a bit stiffer in the ankles, been out for a run this morning in the woods, so done a bit of hills and that, so my ankles are pretty warm actually. I usually get a bit stiff from running, but because it was on softer ground, not so much, so today I actually feel quite good with them. But if I'm having a bit of a stiffer day, sometimes I'll apply a bit extra load. So you can see here, kettlebell rests on top of the knee, and then we allow that to push us, allow that extra force from the kettlebell to push us into a bit more range of motion. And I do get definitely an increased stretch in my soleus now, through the back of my Achilles. One more breath, just 5 breaths. Every exhale, pushing deeper, keeping that heel down. Okay, obviously just be careful with that kettlebell. And then we'll swap legs, just give you a little bit of an angle. So what I like about the chair as well, guys, you can really leverage onto it. We can use the chair to pull ourselves into, put more force into the stretch and get ourselves into more range of motion. So if you're finding that this ankle rock test is real challenging for you, or if you're wanting to learn things like pistol squats, where you're going to need quite a fair deal of ankle dorsiflexion, so you're probably going to need to be able to get that knee to the wall, then this is a good one to be doing. Okay, just 5 breaths, 3 sets. Again, every exhale pushing deeper. Last set again, we'll do the kettlebell. Okay, you should feel stretched on the back of the ankle, back of the soleus. Okay, it shouldn't be pinching in the front. If it's pinching in the front, it might be worth a bit of an awkward setup, but getting a band looped around your ankle, okay, and then pulling that from behind. What that'll do is it'll just create a bit of traction on the joint. It might allow you to move a bit more freely without getting that pinching sensation in the front. Okay, and then hopefully when you take the band off, that sensation will at least stay there for a good 30 minutes to 60 minutes, and you'll be able to train with that, and then eventually the body should adapt to that stimulus, okay, with consistent input. Good stuff. Next one's going to be our rock and lift. Okay, so this is more of an active, so we're trying to really sort of strengthen that anterior tibialis here, so that the front shin muscle. Okay, so from here, you might want to use a kettlebell to leverage onto, or some sort of door frame or something to sort of leverage onto. We want to rock forwards, and as we rock back, we want to try and lift the foot up, and then rock forwards again. So already in this position, in this end range of motion, I'm trying to contract that anterior tibialis. I'm trying to contract that front shin muscle. Okay, and then from there, contract it in that end range, try and pull the foot off the floor, lift, hold for 1, 2, 3, rock again, contract, lift, hold for 1, 2, 3, rock again, contract, lift, 1, 2, 3, sometimes I like to touch it just to really get to fire up, 1, 2, 3, last one, lift, 1, 2, 3, and relax, swap sides. Again, having that kettlebell to leverage onto. Okay, rocking forwards. Let's just put that camera down a wee bit. Actually, you can see me. I always think you can't see me, and then when I look at it, you actually can. So, again, having that kettlebell to leverage onto. Keep the heel down, rock, lift. 1, 2, 3. Lift. 1, 2, 3. 2 more, squeeze into that end range of motion, last one, and relax. Okay, inhale, brace, perform that lift, so you're really pulling that end range of motion. I'd suggest doing probably a couple more sets there, guys, but we'll leave that out for today, just so that we don't spend too long on it. I think you probably get the gist. Let's just retest the rock now. So if I go on my right foot, now I'm going to do it against the door that's actually here now, as opposed to doing it against the glass that's another inch or 2 behind. So just bear that in mind, but yeah. Okay, so that right side probably has improved a little bit. Okay, left side I could get it on the wall anyway before, but should be able to do it a little bit easier now. Yeah. Okay, so just make sure, well, I think it's very important, guys, to retest, have a screen with your flexibility, range of motion work, mobility work, whatever, and then retest that screen afterwards. Has the range of motion improved? Have the exercises that you use actually helped? Okay, And then the next stage is actually to apply it in movement. Okay, and that's how we solidify that range of motion. That's how we really make our brain understand how to utilize that position, that joint angle. Okay, let's now get into the hips. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a spin with the camera. So I'm just going to show you 2 exercises. Now, you know, it does depend. It really does. I'm going to show you some good exercises that I find very valuable. Okay, for myself and for some of the people that I work with, but it does depend. Some of you might not have issues with your hip mobility. It might not be a big issue. For me in the squat, internal rotation is certainly something that I struggle with. Okay, if I was to screen that, we'd do, let's take this off for a second. If I was to screen that, we'd do our Craig's test. So I'd lie on the floor and I'd show my internal rotation. You can see that it's very limited. Externals a lot, internals very limited. So I've probably got slightly retroverted hips. Okay, a lot of external, but not a lot of internal. So I've probably got slightly retroverted hips. So my hips naturally sit a bit further out. So I will tend to squat a bit wider and a little bit more turned out than maybe most people. You know, more of a sort of standard squat. And that's okay. You will have that, but for most, it might just be that you're quite restricted in one of them ranges of motion. I think it's quite important to have a decent amount of internal and external for your squat. You start the squat by producing torque and external rotation. Okay, you're trying to externally rotate to create torque, to create that torque helps create stability around the hip joint and around the knees as well. But as you drop into the squat and you go into the bottom, you'll be slightly internally rotated, okay, in the hip. So we'll go through both them joint angles now. So just getting into this lunge position, the band's going to sit nicely right in the groin. Okay, so get as high up as you can, sit it right in the groin. You want a purple band or heavier or more resistance. From there, hand goes down. Try and keep your torso square so you're not rotating. So the rotation is actually coming from the hip. From there, we're just going to gradually move that hip into internal rotation. Once we find a sweet spot, 5 breaths. And then we'll go into external rotation. What the band does again is just allows a little bit more traction at the hip joint. Sometimes if you're quite stiff through there and you've got a bit of capsular tightness, then the band can just offer you a little bit more traction, give you a little bit more freedom to move comfortably. Might not work for you, it might not be the issue, but it might work for some. Okay, and this is it. It does depend, guys. Depends on what the issue is, where the restrictions are coming from, if you have any restrictions, and that obviously comes down to an assessment. Okay, so we'll swap sides. This is going to be weird because now let's move the camera. Let's get you actually facing so you can look at this nice tidy home gym setup. Look at that. How tidy is that? Okay, so opposite side now. Am I doing this the right way around? No, I'm not. It needs to be this way. There we go. So again, getting it right up in the groin. Coming down into that lunge position, keeping the torso square, making sure you've got your balance. And from there, pulling the hip into internal rotation. So I'm pulling in across the body. Once you find a nice sweet spot, holding that for about 5 breaths. And then external rotation, pulling the knee out away from the body, foot stays stable. Okay, a little bit of moving around as well. It should feel nice and smooth, guys. Okay, it shouldn't feel like there's any pinching or clunking going on. That's the beauty of the band, for me at least. It removes a lot of that. Just places that joint into, like I say, a bit more traction, gives it a little bit more free motion without some of the clunking and carrying on. Okay, so that does work for me. From here we'll go into our seated hip stretch. Okay, so again, external rotation, bit of abduction as well. Okay, so this position here, nice straight back. The feet are going to go about shoulder width or hip width, so heels about hip width. From there, we're just going to try and sit nice and upright, pull the belly button forwards, and every exhale, try and draw them knees down. Keep pulling that belly button forwards. If you can't sit upright here, guys, and you feel yourself doing this, sit yourself on a block, okay, or a step. So you can keep this nice upright position, this nice neutral torso position. Okay, so we'll now just go into an internal rotation stretch. So you can see that leg moving that hip into internal rotation. So hips doing this, okay, the lower leg is moving away from the body, okay. From there, I'll just straighten this leg. There's many different internal rotation stretches you can do, but just ensure here that you've got both bum cheeks down, okay. If you're up here and you're kind of like bum cheeks are up, then maybe it's a little bit too intense, and what you could probably do is just how do you make it easier? Pulling the foot in close to your body will make it a little bit easier, but also sitting on a block could help as well. They're two ways of sort of regressing it slightly. We'll just take 5 breaths here, try and sit nice and upright. So again, we're going to work into a little bit of internal rotation during the bottom of the squat. So it is quite an important position to be comfortable in. Mine is pretty limited, so some of you might find it's a lot better than mine. Although today it feels not too bad. 5 breaths and we'll swap sides. So again, just going to pull that leg to internal rotation. Sitting nice and upright, both butt cheeks on the floor. Okay, so I would suggest that if you are very restricted through any of these movements, guys, again, doing multiple sets. I find 3 sets to be the sweet spot, okay, to get that neural desensitization, allow yourself to open up a little bit into that position. Again, utilizing the breathing, utilizing the exhale to push deeper and relax more into the position. We'll now go through some control drills. So I like to start off nice and simple on all fours. I like to take the squat stance. So for some of you, it's going to be quite narrow, okay, and it might be feet in line with the knees. Okay, so if I start showing you from behind, it might be feet in line with the knees, and that might feel like a good squat stance for you. For me, what I like to do is knees slightly wider, okay, feet slightly inside of the feet, and that's where I feel a very sort of smooth pattern for my hips to move in. So really what we're looking for in this quadruped rock is a nice smooth pattern for our hips to be moving in. We should feel just, yeah, nice and smooth at the hip socket. There should be no pinching, no bony blocks. Okay, it should feel nice and smooth. So once you've found that, have a little play around with it. Once you've found that, so some of you might even be quite close together with the knees, but like I say, for me, it's about hip width, maybe slightly wider. And that's where I feel real smooth and well patterned. Okay, my hips feel well formed in this position. Keep the back nice and straight and just practice rocking back in that squat position, keeping that nice neutral spine, so that exact same position as we would in the squat. So if you were to flip me onto my feet now, it'd just be basically me performing like a astergrass squat and then just coming out of that slightly back to astergrass squat. Okay, and just get familiar with rocking through there. I like to also pull my toes up just so it, again, more similar to that squat position as opposed to here. We wouldn't squat on our tiptoes usually. Okay, second exercise is going to be your assisted squat. So for this, you can just use anything you can kind of get your hands on, really. I'll show you on this one. So from here, it's a little bit low, so I'll take it at the bottom. But stance-wise, again, it will be different depending on how your hips are formed. But for me, about hip width. I think most people will be about hip width. I turn out about sort of 10 degrees. Some of you might be forwards if you're more introverted, or some of you might be about 5 degrees. But yeah, I'll turn out about 10 degrees because I am slightly more formed outwards. From here, okay, we start that descent, stay nice and upright. I'm going to hold on to that object. Okay, just give us a little bit of balance, sit into that bottom position, just keep that torso nice and upright. Okay, as upright as we can. Keep that nice neutral spine, and then we stand up. Okay, just pattern that position. So the knees should track over the middle 2 toes. The feet should stay nice and stable, they shouldn't be spinning out. Okay, we're trying to grip the toes into the floor, create that tripod foot. What some of you might find as well to keep upright is actually to brace at the start. So inhale, brace, push the belly out. Exhale once you get back to the top. Okay, that's the second patterning exercise we can do. From there, let's go through your counterbalance squat. So I'll just poke you up a little bit. Now this is the interesting thing, right? So some of you will sort of think that, oh, my ankles are really limited. So if I show you my squat, right? You look at it and you think, right, so I showed you there my ankle range of motion, I can go past my toes. But if I go into the squat, as I squat down, my knees don't go into that position. I lean quite forwards in my torso, but my knees will not actually pass my toes, okay? Which is interesting, and I'll have to sort of lean my torso forwards to stay balanced. Now the reason why that is because my femur length, my leg length, especially my femurs, the upper part of my leg, upper bones of my leg, are quite long in comparison to my torso, which is quite short. So for me to stay balanced, for me to keep my center of mass over my base support, I have to lean that torso forwards and push them hips back, okay, in order for me to stay balanced with the ratio that I've got in terms of my anthropometrics. If you see someone with slightly shorter femurs, slightly shorter legs, but a longer torso, how do you tell if you've got a group of people? You all get them stood up, right? They'll all be different heights. Now get them to sit down, all on the same, let's say, same height chair or same sort of bench, same height bench, and then there'll be different heights again. They'll have to reform themselves in different height orders. Okay, and that's showing you that, you know, we're not all the same in terms of how long our legs are to how our torso is. Some of us have longer torsos, some of us have short torsos, longer legs, etc. People with shorter torsos, usually, and longer femurs will have to hips back slightly, lean forward slightly, just to stay balanced. Whereas people with more longer torsos, they'll be able to sit into it and probably stay a lot more upright in a bodyweight squat, okay? But just to show you how this works, if I then give myself some extra load, so this is 2.5 kilograms, okay, and I perform this squat again, exactly the same setup, and I come down and I have this here, you'll notice that I can then get my knees a bit further over my toes and I can stay a lot more upright, okay, because I'm able to keep my balance by shifting the object this way. Okay, if I go even heavier, let's say 5 kilograms, I'll be able to stay even more upright. I'll be able to get them knees travel even more over the toes. So really in the squat, the issue is not, for me in a bodyweight squat, the issue is not ankle mobility, it's balance. So here I can get even more upright, I can get the knees even further forwards over the toes. Okay, so it's not really, the issue isn't for me mobility in my ankles, it's actually the ability to stay upright, and that's just down to my my ratios in terms of how long my torso is. It's quite short, legs are quite long. So for me to stay balanced, hips have to go back, torso has to go forwards slightly, and that's how I stay balanced in a bodyweight squat. Okay. If I put my ankles up, okay, I can shift my weight even further forwards because my ankles are up. Okay, and I can sit in that position because I can shift my knees forwards, I can shift that weight over here in this position. But if I then take them off, my weight goes back further, okay? I have to lean that torso a little bit further forwards for me to stay upright, okay? So just bear that in mind, guys, when it comes to a bodyweight squat. It might be mobility, but screen for it, test for it, find your squat stance, but then it also might just be the fact that you're built differently, okay? Your leg length's different, so it might not look like someone you admire on Instagram squat, all right? A lot of information I'm pulling is like stuff from Squat University. So if you guys want to dive deeper into the squat, I've learned a lot from him when it comes to the squat, from his content. So yeah, Squat University's got podcasts, good Instagram page, good website. So yeah, feel free to check out his stuff because it's really, really good info. Okay, and that finally brings us to the contract release squat. So have a play with that counterbalance squat, explore it, play around with it. Last thing we'll do is this contract release squat. So all we're going to do is go down to our squat position. Okay, so brace, drop into that squat position. I'll put my arms forward so I can stay upright. From here, we're going to try and really grip the feet into the floor, push the knees out, stay as upright as we can. 1, 2, 3. It's a real active, like we've got 100 kilograms on our back. 3, 4, 5, and then relax deeper into that bottom position. You'll see that I'll spin out a little bit. I need to really grip them feet into the floor. Let's go again like we've got 200 kilograms on our back. 1, 2, really bracing. 3, 4, 5, and relax into that position. Last time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Relax. And then upright, stand tall, shake it off. Okay, so a bit of a weird one today, guys, but just trying to get you to maybe dive a little bit deeper into the squat and how it works, and hopefully teach you something in the process. So there's obviously many ways you can manipulate it, but remember that they're all going to look slightly different because we all are slightly different. Some people say, oh, you need to be able to squat like a child. Kids have massive heads. Babies have, like, you know, comparing us to like a 2 or 3 year old baby, they've got a massive head. We don't have, you know, our head hasn't really grown so much since then. Our body has. So the way in which we shift our balance is going to be completely different. Okay, so to me, it's a pretty stupid argument, really. So just, yeah, be mindful that it might not look like another person's because we are built differently, and our balance is going to have to, our body position is going to have to change in order for us to keep balance, in order for us to keep that center of mass over our base support. So just be mindful of that, guys, when you're going through it. Do your necessary mobility tests, make sure it feels good, and it feels smooth, and you know the joints are moving well. But yeah, be mindful that it may look a little bit different to your mate's squat, and that's absolutely fine. As long as the principles are met. You know, your tripod foot, knee tracking over the middle 2 toes, trying to keep the torso as upright as we can, especially when it comes to something like a front squat or an overhead squat, because there we've got load, and that load is helping us, our center of mass, stay more upright. So if we're doing a front squat, for example, the weight's going to be here. Okay, so that extra load is going to help us stay upright, even with a back squat. Okay, that extra load is centered over our center of mass. It helps us stay upright. Whereas if it's just a body weight squat, we don't have that. Okay, so our center of mass is going to have to, we're going to have to shift our body slightly to accommodate for that change in position, that change in posture. That change in center of mass. So yeah, a little bit of a different one, but hopefully you found some value from it. And I'll see you tomorrow for day 23. Enjoy.